Hi Meadowlawn family, it's Mrs. Fullerton here in my favorite reading spot in my house in the basement. And today we are going to be reading chapters 35, 36, and 37 in Tale of Despereaux. Chapter 35, The Knight in Shining Armor. Despereaux was pondering the reverse of that question. He was wondering not what he would do with his tail, but what he would do without it. He was sitting on a bag of flour high atop a shelf in the pantry, crying for what he had lost. The pain in his hindquarters was intense, and he wept because of it. But he also cried because he was happy. He was out of the dungeon. He had been recalled to life. His rescue had happened just in time for him to save the Princess P from the terrible fate that the rat had planned for her. So Despereaux wept with joy and with pain and with gratitude. He wept with exhaustion and despair and hope. He wept with all the emotions a young, small mouse who had been sent to his death and then been delivered from it in time to save his beloved can feel. Reader, the mouse wept. And then he lay down on the sack of flour and slept. Outside the castle, the sun set and the stars came out one by one, and then they disappeared and gave way to the rising sun, and still Despereaux slept. And while he slept, he dreamt. He dreamt of the stained glass windows and the dark of the dungeon. In Despereaux's dream, the light came to life, brilliant and glorious in the shape of a knight swinging a sword. The knight fought the dark. And the dark took many shapes. First, the dark was his mother, uttering phrases in French, and then the dark became his father, beating the drum. The dark was Furlough, wearing a black hood and shaking his head no, and the dark became a huge rat, smiling a smile that was evil and sharp. That dark, Despereaux cried, turning his head to the left. The light, he murmured, turning his head to the right. He called out to the knight. He shouted, "Who are you? Will you save me?" But the knight did not answer him. "Tell me who you are!" Despereaux shouted. The knight stopped swinging his sword. He looked at Despereaux. "You know me," he said. "No," said Despereaux, "I don't." "You do," said the knight. He slowly took the armor off his head and revealed nothing, no one. The suit of armor was empty. "No, oh no," said Despereaux. "There's no knight in shining armor. It's all just make-believe, like happily ever after." And in his sleep, reader, the small mouse began to cry. That was a sad story. Poor Despereaux, or sad chapter. Chapter 36, What Meg Carried. And while the mouse slept, Despereaux put his terrible plan into effect. Would you like to hear, reader, how it all unfolded? The story is not a pretty one. There is violence in it and cruelty. But stories that are not pretty have a certain value too, I suppose. Everything, as you well know, having lived in this world long enough to have figured out a thing or two yourself, cannot always be sweetness and light. Listen, this is how it happened. First, the rat finished once and for all the job he had started long ago. He chewed through Gregory's rope, all the way through it, so that the jailer became lost in the maze of the dungeon. Late at night, when the castle was dark, the serving girl, Meadowlawn, climbed the stairs to the princess's room. In her hand, she carried a candle, and in the pockets of her apron were two very ominous things. In the right pocket, hidden in case they should encounter anyone on the stairs, was a rat with a spoon on his head and a cloak of red around his shoulders. In the left pocket was a kitchen knife, the same knife that Meadowlawn had used to cut off the tail of a certain mouse. These were the things, a rat and a knife and a candle, that Meg carried with her as she climbed up the stairs. "Gor!" she shouted to the rat. "It's dark, ain't it?" Yes, whispered Despereaux from her pocket. "It's quite dark, my dear." "When I'm princess," began Meg. "Shh," said Despereaux. "May I suggest that you keep your glorious plans for the future to yourself? May I further suggest that you keep your voice down to a whisper? We are, after all, on a covert mission. Do you know how to whisper, my dear?" "I do," shouted Meg. "Then please," said Despereaux, "please institute this knowledge immediately." "Gor," whispered Meg. "All right." "Thank you," said Despereaux. "Do I need to review with you again our plan of action?" "I get it all straight right here in my head," whispered Meg. And she tapped on the side of her head with one finger. "How comforting," said Despereaux. "Perhaps, my dear, we should go over it again. One more time, just to be sure." "Well," said Meg, "we go into the princess's room, and she will be sleeping and snoozing and snoring, and I will wake her up and show her the knife and say, 'If you does not want to get hurt, princess, you must come with me.'" "And you will not hurt her," said Despereaux. "No, I won't, because I want her to live so that she can be my lady-in-waiting when I become the princess." "Exactly," said Despereaux. "That will be her divine comeuppance." "Gor," whispered Meg. "Yes, her divine comeuppance." Meg had, of course, no idea what the phrase divine comeuppance meant, but she very much liked the sound of it, and she repeated it over and over to herself until Rescuro said, "And then?" "And then," continued Meg, "I tells her to get out of her princess bed and come with me on a little journey." "Ha," said Rescuro, "a little journey, that is right. Ha! I love the understatement of that phrase. A little journey. Oh, and it will be a journey. Indeed it will." "And then," said Meg, who was now coming to her favorite part of the plan, "we take her to the deep downs, and we gives her some long lessons in how to be serving girl, and we gives me some short lessons in how to be a princess, and when we is all done studying up, we switch places. I gets to be the princess, and she gets to be the maid. Gore!" Reader, this is a very plan that Rescuro presented to Meg when he first met her. It was, of course, a ridiculous plan. No one would ever, not for one blind minute, mistake Meg for the princess or the princess for Meg. But Meadowlawn, as I pointed out to you before, was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And reader, too, she wanted desperately to become a princess. She wanted, oh, how she wanted. And it was because of this terrible wanting that she was able to believe in Rescuro's plan with every ounce of her heart. The rat's real plan was, in a way, more simple and more terrible. He intended to take the princess to the deepest, darkest part of the dungeon. He intended to have Meg put chains on the princess's hands and her feet, and he intended to keep the glittering, glowing, laughing princess there in the dark forever. That was a dramatic chapter. We have one more tonight, my friends. Chapter 37, A Small Taste. She was asleep and dreaming of her mother, the queen, who was holding out a spoon to her and saying, "Take this, my sweet pea, taste this, my darling, and tell me what you think." The princess leaned forward and sipped some of the soup from the spoon her mother held out to her. "Oh, Mama," she said, "it's wonderful. It's the best soup I have ever eaten." "Yes," said the queen, "it is wonderful, isn't it?" "May I have some more?" said the pea. "I gave you a small taste so that you would not forget," said her mother. "I gave you a small taste so that you would remember. I want more." But as soon as the princess said this, her mother was gone. She disappeared, and the bowl and the soup spoon disappeared along with her. "Lost things," said the pea, "more lost things." And then she heard her name. She turned, happy, thinking that her mother had come back, but the voice was not her mother's. The voice belonged to somebody else, and it was coming from someplace far away, and it was telling her to wake up, wake up. The pea opened her eyes and saw Meadowlawn standing over her bed, a knife in one hand and a candle in the other. "Meg," she said. "Gore," said Meg softly. "Say it," commanded Rescuro. Meg closed her eyes and she shouted her piece. "If you does not want to get hurt, princess, you must come with me." "Whatever for?" said the princess in an annoyed tone. As I have noted before, the princess was not a person who was used to being told what to do. "What are you talking about?" Meg opened her eyes and shouted, "You got to come with me, so after we take some lessons, you some long lessons, and me some short ones, together way down in the deep downs, I can be you, and you can be me." "No!" shouted Rescuro from Meg's pocket. No, you are doing it wrong." "Who said that?" "Your Highness," said Rescuro, and he crawled out of Meg's pocket, made his way up to her shoulder, and situated himself there like a little big rat. Yuck. Laying his tail across her neck to balance himself. "Your Highness," he said again, and he raised the spoon slowly off his head and smiled, displaying his mouthful of truly hideous teeth. "I think it would be best if you do as Meadowlawn suggests. She is, as you can quite clearly see, in possession of a knife, a large knife, and she will, if pushed, use it." "This is ridiculous," the princess said. "You can't threaten me. I'm a princess." "We," said Rescuro, "are all too aware of the fact of what you are. A knife, however, cares nothing for the fact that you are royalty, and you will bleed, I assume, just like any other human." The pea looked at Meg. Meg smiled. The knife glinted in the light of the candle. "Meg?" she asked, her voice shaking the tiniest bit. "I really do not think," said Rescuro, "that Meg would need much persuasion to use that knife, princess. She is a dangerous individual, easily led." "But we are friends," said the pea, "aren't we, Meg?" Said Meg. "Trust me," said Rescuro, "you are not friends, and I think it would be best if you addressed all your communications to me, princess. I am the one in charge here. Look at me." The pea looked right directly at the rat and at the spoon on his head. Her heart skipped one beat and then two. "Do you know me, princess?" "No," she said, lowering her head. "I don't know you." But reader, she did know him. He was a rat who had fallen in her mother's soup, and he was wearing her dead mother's spoon on his head. The princess kept her head down. She concentrated on containing the rage that was leaping up inside of her. "Look again, princess, or can you not bear to look? Does it pain your royal sensibilities to let your eyes rest on a rat?" "I don't know you," she said, "and I'm not afraid to look at you. The pea raised her head slowly. Her eyes were defiant. She stared at the rat. Very well, said Rescue. Have it your way. You do not know me. Nonetheless, you must do as I say, as my friend here has a knife. So get out of bed, princess. We are going on a little journey. I would like it if you dressed in your loveliest gown, the one that you were wearing at a banquet not so long ago. And put on your crown, said Meg. Put that one on your princess head. Yes, said Rescue. Please, princess, do not forget your crown. The pea, still staring at Rescue, pushed the covers back and got out of bed. Move quickly, said Rescue. We must take our little journey while it is still dark and while the rest of the castle sleeps on. Ignorant, oh so ignorant, I am afraid of your fate. The princess took a gown from her closet. Yes, said Rescue to herself. That is the one, the very one. Look at how it sparkles in the light. Lovely. I will need someone to do my buttons, said the princess as she stepped into the dress. Meg, you must help me. Little princess, said Rescue, do you think that you can outsmart a rat? Our dear Meadowlawn will not lay down her knife, not even for a moment. Will you, Meadowlawn? Because that might ruin your chances of becoming a princess. Isn't that right? Gore, said Meg. That's right. And so while Meg held the knife pointed in the direction of the princess, the pea sat and let the rat crawl over her back, doing her buttons up for her one by one. That gives me the shivers. The princess held very still. The only movement she allowed herself was this. She licked her lips over and over because she thought that she could taste the sweet saltiness of the soup that her mother had fed her in her dream. I have not forgotten, Mama, she whispered. I have not forgotten you. I have not forgotten soup. And that is all we have for tonight. I hope you guys had fun reading that with me. Have a good night.